Yo, what's up guys? RTA tier list, end of season 29, start of season 30. We have about a week left, so if you do want to rune up a few units to grind out those wings the last few days, you can check it from the tier list here. Tier list, as always, is based on my opinion plus win rate, so it might not be matching with what you think. Might be that your LD you feel like is too high placed in the tier list and therefore it's never gonna get buffed or nerfed or whatever. Let me tell you, tier lists do not have any influence on what is getting buffed or nerfed. It's just me stating the obvious that the unit is OP and therefore it's probably gonna get a nerf. Simple as that. Besides that, yeah, feel free to disagree, as always. And then we also have the numbers of 100 to 95 rather than triple S, double S, and those kind of things. That gives this tier list a little bit more flexibility for me to put an in-betweener tier. If I would say a unit is better than 95, but not actually 100, I can make a 97.5, whereas I couldn't make like a double S.5 or something weird like that. So for that reason, I have these numbers. I'm going to be placing in all units that have at least 2% pick rate. I can, however, also place units in if I do feel that they're meta relevant, if they are less than 2% pick rate, if they just have like a high win rate or something interesting. But therefore, I'm not going to be placing in all units in here. Like, for example, a Lagmaron is not going to be in here today because it's just simply not used that much. Sure, it can give you wins, but most of the cases, it's not going to be used that much unless you have a very specific team based around this. Also, do keep in mind that some of these units that might be lower ranked could still be usable in specific teams if you rune the good runes on them, if you have like good things working for them. So this is more of a global overall tier list. And of course, we're going to be using the, what's it called? The numbers of this to check where things are in win rates and such. So that's definitely an interesting one. And I do think that today in general is going to be a pretty interesting tier list because a lot of the very strong LDs of before, the Laura, the Veronica, the Light Ivor, are all nerfed. And it's actually a very strong meta revolving around Chandra, Sagar, and Valajul. So let's see where these will be placed. So Kabila, it is used simply only in the team with the Maximilian, so I don't really think she has like a worth of placing it herself. None of these units, Ikasha. I'm not going to be spending too much time on units that are not actually used as much, but do want to give them a try if they have like a little bit of playtime. But the further I go down with scrolling down on these units, you can already see that it's just not being used. So let's just ignore it. One that I actually did miss is the Dark Undying. Do I want to set in that one pretty quick? Would have to redo this thing, but I do think... Let me actually see what kind of win rate she's at. And if she's used in G3. Yeah, never mind. Never mind. It's too weak. I don't have to redo this whole tier list just for that. So all of these units are pretty much not used. I do sometimes put in Sion. Let's see if he actually has some playtime these days, but he's just highly, well, CP is kind of out of, or like getting slightly pushed out of meta. So for that reason, he might be making a slight comeback, but currently not the case. So then the first one we actually have placed off is once again Han. Han is a 10.6 on a 51.70. That is definitely some nice numbers, and I think I'm gonna drag Han right away to the 90. Would I even say he is a 95? Let's see in comparison to... So, because the tier list is always very easy to compare to other things, like or a unit compared to another unit. But in this case, he's one of the first units, so that always makes it a little bit difficult to see where things are at. Oh, this is also an interesting one. Maximilian, 45% win rate. Great unit, right? Great unit. Everyone is going for that one with the SP summon and shit, but that's really not that great of a unit. So for Han, it's not a crazy of win rate. I do think Han is pretty strong. It's definitely very well paired with like the Twins Angels and stuff right now. But I would say with the Chandra meta, he's a little bit worse because he's kind of difficult to give the hug to because he will just spam himself with cooldowns out of the hug, and that just makes him a little bit worse than few other units that are in similar tier. So Han on the 90 I think is fair. Moving on next with a Camilla. I did notice that Camilla did get pretty decently hit in win rates too. I'm not entirely sure where that comes from because I would say that she should counter a Chandra because the Chandra would always stun her. But she's just not really working out that well. But I still think that a Camilla build as a damage on fire and then just anti-fire units is still a pretty strong unit, but apparently is a little bit more struggling with those kind of matchup these days. I did also slightly de-rune or lower rune quality on my Camilla. But I think still Camilla, even though that the win rate is only a 47.6, I do feel like she still has some value to have in your draft, so a 70 for her is fine for me. And we have a Vanessa, one of the few main picks on fire, if not the most main pick on fire. 30% pick rate, close to 50 on the win rate. That's definitely not bad for the amount of pick rates. Number 6 most picked unit in the game. Definitely a very strong overall unit, and I would give Vanessa a 90 as well. Just being that overall strong and still having like close to 50 win rate does mean that you're pretty good in general. So that is definitely a very solid, valid pick over there to be on 90. It's also a first pick, so it is spammed a lot in the first slot. Oh wait, first pick is over here. Lol, not over there. But yeah, still being first pick and that high up definitely does give high feeling for that. Then we have a Chroma, which actually has been slightly climbing in win rate. It is pretty good against a few teams. For example, the Layla team with like Tomoe, Heigang, all of those kind of things. It's pretty decent into the Sierra with Sibala and Dark Robo. So it does have its usages. It's a little bit more niche, but she does have a decent win rate. She is below 2% pick rate, but I do actually want to fit her in. I think she's about like 75 because she's very niche into specific things. However, you actually have to focus really good bruiser runes on her. Probably, I would say, Vio Blade to make her do enough damage to get anywhere where you would say like she is good enough to be at that slot. Clara, no one really uses. We definitely do have Asher being used. Asher actually took a pretty hard hit in win rate, which is interesting to see. I'm not entirely sure where that comes from. Maybe that turn 1 is currently not as strong. That could be a thing. Because I'm pretty sure that last season around, the Asher win rate was a lot higher. And I actually did place Asher pretty high in as well. Currently it's a 48 win rate. And we do have a primer from Airlift. Thank you very much. But let's see for the Asher. I do think Asher is still a pretty solid pick all around. It's just that he's slightly less fitting current meta. I think Asher fits better on the meta with boosting for AoE CC. So boosting for into an Asher, into a Chitian Dasheng, or like I used to use it into an AoE strip from like a Heigang and then a Neftis. But all of those comps are slightly weaker right now. And I think therefore Asher win rate is slightly dropping. So I'm going to give Asher an 80 for that reason. Are enough people using Ferret? I don't think so. Ferret is mainly used if people like to go for Widgets or Loras. Without those, they're not really used. Okay, it does have an insane win rate, but this pick rate is non-existing, so it doesn't really count at all. Sure, with those units that I just mentioned, you can definitely use a Ferret though. Vertiheal. I definitely do see a lot of Vertiheals, but that is also because we are in a pretty strong Cigar meta. And because of that, I would definitely say that a Vertiheal is pretty strong. So we got a 12.8 and a 49. I definitely would say Vertiheal is currently 85. You definitely do see it quite a lot, and it's definitely one of those units you have to have built on a pretty good set. Make sure it's tanky enough that it can actually handle quite a punch. Make sure it's not too slow, so definitely a Vert 85 for me on that occasion. Jemire, though, I don't really think we see too much Jemires at the moment. Jemire is a 44.69 win rate on a 1.28 pick. It can be a niche counter pick here and there, but I'm going to give Jemire 60. I did want to place him in, but Jemire is really not in a great position right now. It can be a niche to nice counter pick if you do spam it with like a Tablo. It's not really the greatest of times to do that. Wait, I'm actually going to lower him down. Nah, I'm going to put him over here. There's a few units even more useless than that. As a counter pick into a Veronica, it's kind of okay-ish. It used to be an okay counter to that. But Veronica is no longer as strong as she used to be. So it's not as much of a must for the Jemire to do the reset. So Wrath is kind of on similar level with low pick rate, low win rate. But that's more of a last pick counter pick, whereas this is like slightly different. So I think I'm not going to place that in. However, one that I'm definitely going to be placing in is Julian. 20.38 on the pick rate, on a 52.70 on the win rate. That is probably the most picked LD5 at the moment. No, number 2 most picked LD5. We have Laura being higher than that and Ragdoll being slightly below that. But that is insanely strong. So he goes straight to 95 for me. It's absolutely very much a powerhouse. Absolutely strong unit. Probably one of the best, if not the best single target damage dealers in the game. I would say the best single target damage dealer in the game right now. So Julian gets a straight up 95 from me. Moving on next, Cadiz, pretty sure not used. Theor, we can have a quick check, but I don't really think Theor's more fitting that AoE/CC meta as well, which is not really there right now. None of these units. Oh, about a Jean is also fitting more of AoE/CC kind of units. Let's see if it's still strong. It's lowering. You can definitely see that we're falling away from the AoE/CC meta or the AoE hit meta, and therefore units like a Jean definitely do take a hit as well. However, still a 50.3 win rate on a, or a 50.3 pick rate on a 50.87 on the win rate. Is definitely still a usable unit, is definitely still a good unit, but is it super OP or like anything like that anymore? No, I'm just gonna give it, it used to be quite a bit higher, but I would say that Sean still fits an 85. However, he's a lot more right now of a niche pick rather than a spam pick, which is just the meta at that time for it. Then next up, we have a Zeratul. Zeratul is buffed. I'm pretty sure it's not going to be over 2% pick rate, but I'm curious what the buff actually did do for him. 51 win rate on the 0-5 pick. I would see it just as a Leo counter. So Leo counter, you can definitely make it work, but besides that, nah. Now we have a very interesting one, which was actually not buffed in the recent balance patch, but all of his friends that are very well paired with him are buffed. And that actually makes Valkyrja, on statistical wise, the best unit in game, more or less. Because if you check all of those pick rates, it is a 32 pick rate, which is very high compared to all of those that are at the start as well. But it is a whole % higher win rate than any of the other guys that are picked in the top 5. Which is a lot. A 52.50 win rate on a 32 pick rate, that is really, really insane. So Valkyrja, for me, gets straight a 95 as well. I would say that it's not 100, even though that the statistics might kind of say, but there's definitely counter picks to it. Plus, it's not really a first pick. I think those two scenarios where it's not really a first pick, and there's definitely some counters to it, but he is definitely difficult to counter, but it's definitely also one of those units you do want to build right now. He's very strong. And I also would say that you, for builds, you probably have to put it like Swift, or not Swift, Fire, Will, Speed, Crit Rate, Defense. That's the most common build out there, I would say. So definitely add in some damage. Artemil, let's see. Artemil. Are people actually using that? I would say Artemil's just mainly still a Leo counter, make it full damage. Artemil needs one buff. Holy shit, Artemil needs a buff. Win rate of Artemil is actually insanely high. 54.90. That is impressive. I would say like an Artemil that stuns all the time is very strong. The only thing Artemil getting stunned is very deadly. If they ever give the buff to Artemil where he can't get stunned, Artemil would be zooming on like an insane pick rate. I'm telling you that. But I definitely do feel that Artemil's kind of a chroma level. In the right matchup, at the right time, it's definitely going to be very strong. Is it non-counterable or can it still like die easily? Yes, it can, but at the right matchup, they're very strong and they can definitely do their own thing. Fermion, pretty sure that's not used except one guy that was spamming it with Ragdoll and Gapso and those kind of things. But I think that was literally the only guy using Fermion and not to great success. Yeah, I would also say that the Chandra maybe critting a lot more in the skill 1 also gives more chances for the Artemil to pop off because we do have a few of those things right now. Moving on next, we have the Oracles. Oracles not in the best position that they were ever at. Lima, 50 on a close to 4% pick rate. It's not too bad, but it's also nothing crazy. You would give Lima 75. If you build your draft around her, she can definitely be nice, but you have to give her those good enough runes where she's Fire, Will, probably crit rate faster than your whole team, so you definitely do have to invest. Do you want to place her in there? Juno, however, is probably strongest Oracle out there right now. 24 on the pick rate and a 51.30 on the win rate, which is absolutely very strong powerhouse. Straight up 90 for Juno for me. Just an overall super strong unit. Also one of the better and most picks on the normal elementals these days. However, it does have to share a few other units right now, which actually have more pick rate and more win rate, which is pretty interesting actually. So Juno is over there on the 90. Next on, Sierra. Still being used quite some. Actually, Sierra is mostly used as a bomber right now rather than an additional damage artifact dealer. It's mainly used with like Sibalas, Dark Robos. Very often also paired with like Light Ivor, Veronica, those kind of units. So, but win rate is a little bit above 50, 21 on the pick rate. So I would say definitely a solid unit once again. But is it a solid unit that everyone should be picking up? I'm not 100% sure about that, because I still feel like you have to have a very specific draft and then Sierra becomes really good. But without that specific draft, like a late pick Sierra or anything is not really going to do much for you. So it's either just like a first/second pick, or she's probably not really fitting your draft. That's kind of how I feel about her. I will give her an 80 though. She does have like the high accuracy checks. If you put her high on bomb damage, if she misses bombs, it's really going to be that bad day for you. But maybe do I one-up her? No, I'm gonna one-up her because she does have that speed lead. You do see her some first picks. 85 for Sierra. I think that's fair. Next on, we have Lima, and this is probably the reason why I de-runed Lima. It's not as bad anymore. But 3% pick rate and a 48 on the win rate. Lima in current state is really not that great. I would definitely say that Lima is a 1 down from a Praha in current meta. And that's just how it is. She's really not doing too well in the current meta. It's just struggling against the Heigangs, but also struggling against the Valid Jewels, struggling against the Cigars, struggling against the Chandras. Not the greatest in current meta, and therefore I also switched her off from my draft, and she's currently unruined for me. Gianna is a 4% pick rate on a 50.70 on the win rate. I would say a late pick Gianna is definitely not bad. I would definitely say that the late pick Gianna can be pretty nice. And it's actually kind of on same level as the Acroman Artemil, where if you use her correct at a late moment in the draft, she can be pretty good. If you use it too early and you spam her too much, she's not going to be great. She's going to be facing a lot of Heigangs, other things, and it's just not going to be that great. However, Gianna 75 is still very worthy over there. Let's see for a Annabelle. Jaeger, I will get to Jaeger the moment we get to Jaeger. That's the easiest way to say it. Ew, Annabelle, that's 45 win rate. I guess even Liver is not playing you anymore. Rika though, let's see if people still pick Rika as a 5th position. You do see it from time to time. Close to 55 or like 54.5 win rate on 1.2 pick rate. It is definitely one of those strong units. Once again, very strong last picks. I think that this is, except for the Praha, it's just very strong last picks. If they fit in the right draft, they're gonna do their shit. Otherwise, yeah, not that great. Charlotte, you do see some Charlottes from time to time at the moment. You want to see your Cadiz? I did actually skip over Cadiz, but we can do a late check on Cadiz because I'm pretty sure Cadiz is not on high enough pick rate. But since you're here, I'm gonna give it a check for you. No, we're not gonna put that in. Sorry, man. I tried. Like it's literally 31 matches. No, that's garbage. Don't use it in G3 RTA. Charlotte, however. Charlotte is sometimes a counter Leo. I guess, but there's a lot of counter Leos out there. Charlotte is close to 2% pick rate, so I do kind of want to place it in, but I feel like Charlotte could be nice as this counter thing where you want to make it fast and then the 105 in base speed and you push things up, but I would say it's not really that great in current meta, so 70 for Charlotte for me. Then we're gonna look at more interesting units. Laura, and let's see, Laura is a 21.11 on a 53.66. That is pretty darn high. That's higher than any of the units. Like if you take these numbers, that's higher than any of the units. If we select it just by win rate, and then we go down the list, she pretty much is the first one that shows up that is over 10%, and she's even over 20% pick rate. That is definitely a very strong unit. Then the question, do I feel like she's that strong that she is 100 right now? No, actually I don't. Because I currently feel like that she's strong. She's absolutely strong. Oh, wait, that's the wrong one. But I don't really feel like she is like the end-all OP unit like she used to be. I don't really feel like that's fair for her to say like she is as good as she used to be. Because she definitely has a few nerfs. It is noticeable that her skill 1 does cycle a little bit less. She is, for me, a 97.5. She's no longer a 100 for me, but she is absolutely still definitely up there and very strong. Ritsu, yeah, Ritsu's bad. We'll get to Ritsu, but Ritsu's bad. Let's see about Nikki. Nikki is actually dropping down a lot in win rate, which I'm surprised about. In the end, the damage she dealt was... Well, there were a lot of people that actually used her as a damage dealer after a Maximilian or after a Neftis. So that is very strong, I would say. However, it's pretty hard to tune down right now. I do feel like she is still pretty strong. 50.72 is absolutely not a bad win rate. 7.5 on the pick rate is absolutely bad as well, not bad as well. But she definitely did take a little bit of hits. Would I say that she is... Well, I would say that she's also nerfed because of the metas just not revolving around doing AoE damage. Because it's a lot more focused on the single target damage. She can kind of get away with it still, because she's more of a setup rather than the damage dealer. But I would definitely say that she is more tuned down by the meta rather than her nerf, in my opinion. So I would say that she fits an... Yeah, she kind of fits like an 85 for me. Next up, we have some Hell Ladies. Ethna. Well, we can start off with Rika, but I'm pretty sure Rika is just a Julian counter. And countering Julian is very difficult, so therefore, it's not too bad. It's not too bad, but once again, I'm gonna put you 70. I think it's like an okay-ish counter on a few units like Julian, but it's hard to make it work because you could maybe one-shot the Julian, but Julian can definitely one-shot you. So it's kind of a tricky trade-off. Plus, you're gonna make the draft very difficult in the first place of if they ban this, I should ban that, blah, blah, blah. You know how it works. Next off, Ethna. Ethna is very strong. 21.33, 50.09. I would definitely say that a good Ethna really outshines an average Ethna. And that just means good runes, good artifacts, dealing enough damage where you draw things below 50%. But this is definitely a very, very strong unit. So I would say a very good G3 Ethna is for me absolutely a 90. You have that cycling of S2 and S3. You always have the damage threat in there. You always have the speed threat in there. And I would definitely give Ethna a 90 for me. Let me go on to Asima. And Asima did actually get a buff where her S2 is dealing more damage or some shit. However, for some reason, she never really performs in win rate. Nor is she even actually used in G3, which is interesting. I would definitely say her in lower ranks is very good. But apparently, her in G3, I think people still rather Rika because it's probably the right element rather than anything. I'm surprised about that. I am somewhat surprised about that. But once again, it's not the AoE CC meta with AoE damage dealing, so she's not really fitting that well. This can really fit in the right... Well, I'm going to place them still same level. For me, they're still same level. Kraka, I do see a little bit more people use Kraka, like Guts the Berserk and those kind of guys. Is it that great? No, it's not. 46 on the win rate on a very low pick rate. For me, Kraka still like a 65. It's more probably people that want to make it work rather than it actually being good. Next off, we have a good old Antares. Definitely not really the meta for Antares, and his pick rates plus win rate are definitely representing that. 45 on the win rate and a 1.69 on the pick rate. Yeah, I would say an Antares, if it's drafted well in the right draft, it could still do some work, but it's definitely difficult against those bruisers like Chandra and those kind of things out there right now. Next up, we have some Menki business, and I'm pretty sure that I saw Shiho the other day on one of the lowest win rates that I've ever seen a unit above 1% pick rate, 41.41 win rate. That is actually really fucking bad. 55 for the monkey. Does it mean the monkey cannot be used at all? It can be used, I just don't recommend it. It can be used. If you have the right draft, you can definitely get the right win from it, but it's not really that great. However, we got also a Fire Monkey. Fire Monkey definitely did drop down a little bit of win rate as well. It can still do the miracle work where it can kill a whole bunch of the water units and all of those kind of things. It is a 12 on the pick rate, close to 49 on the win rate, and Menki on fire is definitely a strong unit. I would give it an 85, absolutely a unit everyone should rune. I would highly recommend going 100 crit rate because the moment he crits, he's just so much better. Then we have Wind Monkey. You see it from time to time against those drafts where if it counters a lot, it should probably kind of do a thing, but it still kind of doesn't. I'm gonna give Monkey a 60 though, like the Xingzi. It is not too bad, but it's also not too great. Interesting. Next one. I mentioned it a few times. We're not really in the AoE CC meta. How does the king of AoE CC meta does? 51 win rate. It's still definitely very strong. However, it's definitely not as much picked anymore. And we're going to keep that in mind. It's definitely not really his meta where he really shines. But I still value him on an 85. The moment he is picked in there at the right draft, moment he takes over, it's just really a powerhouse. Now, I'm actually going to one down him for like the amount of... Yeah, no, I'm actually going to one down him because there's actually a few very hard counters which he just hard struggles into. If you force him into the draft, he's just not going to be great. If he's a last pick, it's kind of like on this level, but he's doing that slightly better. So for that reason, the 80 over the 75. Yeah, I feel like it's true. It's not really as meta. Someone has a quick question. Wind Monkey or Wind Desert Warrior? I think both units are kind of shit, but the Wind Monkey is less shit. That is my opinion. No, Nikki is definitely higher than these two. Nikki is pretty much on similar rates as these. Then we go on with some Dragon Eyes, because I'm pretty sure that Zhongxiang Lao is still an absolute shitter in this game, which is the 6 matches played. He did win a few though, but 6 matches played does kind of say enough. Let's look at Chao. I was never really a big Chao fan. However, I did play a few matches of Chao here and there, and he got a little bit more of my liking. So let's see, we got a 2.5 on the pick rate and a 48.44 on the win rate. This is definitely higher than Chao used to be. But I would say it's kind of on the 70 rate. It's definitely not bad, but I would say that Chao does fit some matches more than a Camilla. But it still kind of depends what the matches are. But yeah, I would say Chao is definitely nice. The big issue with Chao is you expect him to solo and then he just gets like 4 or 5 debuffs on his ass and he's still gonna get stunned the moment he takes a turn. So don't really expect him to solo that much. So for that reason, I'm gonna give him a 70. Leica, however, definitely one of those back pockets everyone wants to keep ruined up because it can give you that win at certain moments. It is a 50 win rate exact with a 1.13 on the pick rate. I think it's kind of on same level. If it's drafted in the right situation, can definitely do something, but it's not drafted that often. Next off, we have a Leo. According to ACOG, still strongest unit in game. 45 win or 49 win rate definitely doesn't represent that. Pick rate is pretty high. Ban rate is probably highest in game. Yep, it is still highest ban rate in game, so definitely has some value for there. Personally, I never really struggled that much against a Leo, but it still is uniqueness that certain players can just not properly play into Leo or can actually play very well with a Leo, and that just gives Leo a little bit of edge over other things. But for me, no, I'm actually gonna give Leo an 85. He's that unique, he's that good, but it really depends on like what draft are you doing and is the enemy doing, if it's worth to pick him. And for me, pretty much all drafts I've done, I never really valued Leo that high, but I can definitely see his value on 85 because it's that high of a ban rate as well. Next up, we have a Jaeger. Mr. Jägermeister, is it any good or is it still shite? Well, pretty sure it is. It's kind of shite. Pick rate is too low, so I'm not going to place him in. But win rate is not too bad. But pick rate is definitely very, very low. Ragdoll, however. Ragdoll, we did mention that already. It is the second most picked LD5 unit out there right now. It is just behind the Laura. Oh, no, wait. Third. It's also behind the Julian. But Ragdoll is definitely very strong. It is, however, not winning an insane amount compared to these two. Those two are. The Gapso slightly nerfed and therefore the Ragdoll slightly nerfed, but it's still one of the strongest pivot picks in there. So for that reason, I am going to give Ragdoll a 90. I still think Ragdoll is very strong, one of the better units out there to get, because it just gives that much dynamic to your draft where it's like, okay, I'm losing a draft to outspeeds, there's an Ethna, Ragdoll. And Ragdoll solves like half of that draft already, which I do think Ragdoll is very strong for. However, I do think Ragdoll is very much spammed too much rather than just as a pivot draft, and that's kind of dropping his win rate, I would say. But yeah, Ragdoll definitely a very strong unit. And then we have the newcomer, probably best in slot unit out there. Pick rate 40, 51 on the 65 win rate. First pick rate is insanely high. It's pretty much, it's more first picked right now than the Oliver is, or almost, very close to. So yeah, Chandra is absolutely a powerhouse for me right now, and Chandra goes to a 97.5. I think Chandra is kind of overtuned with skill 1 always critting, because we have the nerf to Despair, which Despair does care about elements again. However, we do have it where you always crit, you don't care about elements again. So you could be stunning next level, anti the Ethnas out there, the Cigars out there, the Sierras out there. You could be strip stunning. That is insane for a skill 1. So yeah, Chandra, every move he does is very strong. So Chandra is definitely a 97.5 for me. Absolutely powerhouse of a unit. Then any of the other ones are not strong enough for RTA yet, and I also didn't place them in here. That's why you don't see them. So for that reason, we're gonna go next to Yan Hong. Yan Hong is a 12.34 on the pick, 50.80 on the win. Definitely still pretty strong units. Would I give that a 90? No, I'm actually gonna give that an 85. I think it's very strong in the specific drafts, but you kind of need like another unit, another LD to actually make it shine. Like for example, if you have a Neftis plus a Yan Hong, it's very strong. But it's mainly paired with like the Sierra, and with the Sierra draft, I think it's okay. It is definitely very impactful, but is it super good? I'm not too sure about it. Well, I do feel like she's gonna get a 90. She's absolutely better than these units in here. I would also argue she's better than Nikki at the moment. She's definitely feeling a lot more fair on the 90 than the 85 range. But I would still say she is a little bit more of a unit that has to be pairing with other LDs to actually shine. Let's see about the dark version. Mainly used as cleaver, probably still used as cleaver, probably not used as much, but slightly more than expected, 1.27, but 47 win rate. I just give it something like that. A 65 is what she gets from me. Then next up, I could quickly check about Miang, but I'm pretty sure no one really uses Miang in G3 RTA. At least I wouldn't recommend it, and that's also what happens. So next one off is a Wusa. Wusa is close to 7 on the pick rate, close to 49 on the win rate. Definitely not a bad unit. Would actually recommend people to still have it in their draft if they're looking for immunity. 75 for me, but if you're looking for the real immunity, it's right over there with a Valajul. It's definitely a lot stronger with that cleanse. A lot more damage just on the skill 1 and skill 2, so as Wusa maybe stronger. 7 pick rate. It does have quite a bit higher pick rate than all of those. Yeah, would I say so? Would I say so? Win rate is kind of low though. I would say no. I still recommend people to rune up Wusas, but I would say Wusa right now is best paired. If you have a Ragdoll, then Wusa is absolutely 80. Ragdoll or Wusa without a Ragdoll is more like feeling here, but I feel like that more people can kind of stack up that one. Kraka is at least 97.5, at least not. But yeah, I'm gonna get Wusa on 80. I agree. Then we go for a Chiwu. Chiwu is 4 pick rate, exact 1000 matches. But the win rate is a 47.70, and he's feeling definitely a little bit of flavor of Hey Gang. I would still say that Chiwu as a last pick can be strong, but it's just really struggling with the Hey Gang and a bunch of other units, even more. But yeah, 70 for Chiwu I think is still fair. It's definitely something you could still be using out there. Let's look at Wunsa. Wunsa is absolutely one of those units. If you have multiple LDs, he becomes strong. Without it, it's quite a bit worse. So it's actually pretty high on the pick rate, 48.09 on the win. Pick rate is close to 8. But like I said, it's very strong the moment you also happen to have like a Han or few of those other units that just work very well with it. Neftis, Maximilian, blah, 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 those kind of things. It definitely boosts that quite a bit, but without it, it's not really as great. So I would say if you happen to have more LDs, it's probably like good fitting LDs is probably higher up there. But without it, you're kind of still bound to like a Sierra, Zibala, Wunsa. We actually have a player that likes to add that with Ren. Those are definitely options out there that kind of make it dynamic and decent. But no, I'm still going to place it 80 as well. I do value it up a little bit. But I would say it's more like higher up there. If you have other LDs, it's lower down there if you don't. So I'm going to average that out at 80. Next up, we have some Thessarion. Thessarion is actually recently buffed, /nerfed, /changed, /whatever. His win rate is absolutely horrendous. 45.64 win rate on a 6 pick rate. He's always been struggling. He's always been that one unit that is supposed to counter all of the difficult units out there, but he can't. that is just Thessarion. I'm gonna give it 70 for his attempt and his uniqueness, where you can kind of give it a try. But Thessarion is just really a difficult unit. It's also mainly drafted in like a losing draft kind of style, so for that reason, it makes it a little bit hard. But I do value his uniqueness, 70 for Thessarion, but his win rate is not really representing that. Elsharion, which I definitely do think is not really special great at the moment. It was recently buffed as well. But is it buffed enough to the point where people start using it? 1% pick rate, 48 on the win rate. It is just used in people that are using a very specific draft around him. Could be very good with that very specific draft around him, but without it, you're never really going to pick it. So he gets a 60 for me. Next up, we have Tiana, which is mainly drafted if you do have a Nephthys. But Tiana has a 42 win rate and a 0.8 pick rate. Yeah, let's not talk about Tiana. That unit is garbage. Light Polar Queen. Light Polar Queen, 1.24 on the pick, 48.22 on the win. Not super high, but definitely still a unit. I would say if used at the right draft, right time, 75. Pretty strong unit. But that is definitely not a great... Oh, wait, Veramos. I forgot about Veramos. You are very much right. Veramos. Veramos is actually very good. 7% win rate. Or, no, wait, 7% pick rate, 7% win rate. That will be really bad. 7% pick rate on a 51.66 win rate and a 30 on the ban. That is actually insanely fucking high for free-to-play unit out there. And Veramos is absolutely a powerhouse right now. I would definitely say, maybe I'm slightly biased because I'm drafting a lot of Nephthys before, but I would still say the moment that people have just a Sekhmet or a few other units in there, Veramos is very strong. Veramos is very hard to deal with, and Veramos is very often something that you have to ban. I would definitely say that it's almost, it's not picked that much. I'm gonna lower it one down for that reason. But Veramos is absolutely a powerhouse. Everyone should be ruining it up. You have a lot of triple Nem, but I would say that he is definitely better on Vio Nem. And you can put crit rate 4 on him because his damage output is from enemy max HP. Well, there's a lot of HP kind of type units over here right now. And also the skill 1 is based off speed scaling. So if you make it fast, crit rate on the 4, HP on the 6, definitely a unit that does very well. So Veramos gets an 85 for me. Missed that one. Thanks for calling it out. Yeah, it's also when he procs out of inability effects. That's where he can start cycling. That's absolutely the right way. That's why triple Nem, before it was triple Nem, is kind of like trying to get that turn. Now it's more of like a bruiser kind of style in there. I'm pretty sure that Lydia is not really used. And if people use that, probably should stop using that. It is used as a counterplay here and there, but it's not that much. Then Tiana, no, Tiana is like 0.5% pick rate in G3. She's not really used much. She can only be used with like a Nephthys Tiana. I think that's pretty much the only thing out there that works for her, but she was like 42 win rate. Light Polar is already put on 75. Next one that's also buffed and interesting, and a lot of people call this the new LD5. I kind of doubt that. It's more fun, niche than really good. But let's actually see where I can find this guy. Frigate, what is your win rate? 2.27 on the pick rate. Win rate is a 46.5. So, in all honesty, a lot of people were like, Frigate! No, I say Frigate. Frigate is a 65 for me. It's niche, it can work if you have the right draft for it with the resets. It could be kind of interesting, but it's more niche than crazy or good or anything. Because these people that are using this are really specific, making a team for Frigate to work. It's not that you can randomly pick up like, oh, my team needs a Thessarion right now, I can pick that up. No, they make a specific team for Frigate and they still lose with it. So that you can't sell me that as a great unit. And in any of the other ranks, it's never above like 46 win rate. So yeah, no, not a great unit, 65 for me. And then we have a Tetra, which is always kind of an underrated unit. You do have the Juno to counter the same thing, you do have the Veramos to counter the same thing, but Tetra can sometimes actually counter things that are slightly different. Win rate, not really representing that in current meta. I would say she was better in the AoE CC kind of meta, where people didn't have too much damage sometimes. Now in the single target bruiser, she's probably a little bit worse, but I still value myself a Tetra draft here and there. And for that reason, I'm going to be slightly biased on that, but I definitely do think a Swift Nem Tetra is pretty nice. And ban rate, good point. Ban rate is pretty high, so I do still value myself a good Tetra draft. Always 5th pick, like never earlier than that, always 5th pick, but still having a Swift Nem Tetra in there, you don't need to Vio it, just Swift Nem it. Make sure it's faster than enemy Vio units, so Vio units on 24 lead or 33 lead. And for that reason, you keep lapping them, so every time they take a turn, your Tetra also took a turn. And then cleanses everything off from your team, and they can't really deal too much damage, and just healing a shit ton, and that kind of yaddy shenanigans. Yapping kind of stuff. Next on, Okeanos. 1.1, 47 on the win. Not really used too much. It was a little bit where Okeanos maybe made a comeback kind of style, but the comeback kit just has the issue where the meta switched from AoE CC to single target damage, which Okeanos is not that great. I'm just gonna leave him at a 60. Poseidon, mainly a cleaver kind of unit. Probably suffering from the same issue that it's not really an AoE CC meta, and it's a 42 win rate. Definitely something we're not gonna place right now. Triton, however, I did used to use quite some Triton with my previous draft. It was pretty strong, but now we have something that's called a Lucia, and Lucia definitely will drop your win rate if you're a Triton owner. 46.5 on the win rate, definitely low. 1.63 on the pick rate, also not that high. Can be used, but probably not that great, and you have to invest pretty good runes to a unit that you don't really use too much, so if you have the rune that on Swift, it could definitely be a nice pickup, but it's really not that great for most matches. Nope, we're actually going to lower it down to 60. Pantas, however. Pantas is used by a few players that are very high ranked, but is it that great of a unit overall? I'm not too sure. Pantas does show a 50.09 on the win rate and a pick rate of 4.35. But for me, Pantas is 80 by best, to be honest. I'm not going to give it any higher than that. And I feel like I'm slightly generous on Pantas already here. Would maybe feel it like I would feel it closer to 75, then I would feel it to 80. But I'm going to give Pantas an 80. Next on, Molly. I'm pretty sure Molly is not being used. And if people use Molly, I would recommend not to use Molly. 100% win rate unit. We found her, boys. 100% win rate unit. Picked once. Yeah, and let's not place that in. Next up, we have some Bastet. Bastet is... we're not even going to look at that. Sekhmet. We're definitely going to be looking at Sekhmet. Sekhmet. Not high win rate. Probably one of the higher pick rate units out there with one of the worst win rates. It's definitely one of those units that is used in maybe a losing draft. It's like, I got a speed connect. Let's find it in there. That's actually not the lowest one. That's Shizuka. Shit unit. Sackers. Well, no longer sacking, I guess. But yeah, I do feel like Sekhmet is still pretty strong in drafts. Win rate is not representing that. Ban rate is still pretty decent on the 23, I would say. But yeah, I would give Sekhmet still an 85. I still think Sekhmet is pretty strong. It's just having it struggle. Well, Chandra's probably one of her struggles as well. I would also say that Varamos is one of her struggles, because a Varamos into a Sekhmet is a very strong draft over there. Next on, we got a Hathor. The one unit we don't like to see, but we are kind of seeing it back here and there. Well, I would say currently it's not as great anymore. Just too many fire units that kind of deal with it. No, it's 0.62 on the pick rate. Win rate is decent, but fuck Hathor, I'm not even going to place it in. I'm going to place it in for the memes. No, I'm not going to place it in. I'm not even going to give you the credits to be placed in. Fuck you. That's what I think about Hathor. Next up, we have a Isis. One of those units that if it did land its shit, it's very strong. It is actually not as bad. Like 52 win rate is not that bad. Is it actually better in the 4v4 or outside of the 4v4? It doesn't really matter. Ban rate is pretty high. It's one of those units, if your enemy drafts like a Gapso and a Ragdoll and a Racuni and a Leo, and you can just nullify all of that in one go, they have to pretty much ban it. So I would say she is not that bad. I'm going to give Isis a 75. You're not going to use it that much, but I feel like she's stronger in the draft than outside of the draft. And you kind of hope her to be banned, and therefore all of your other units get through. And I think that she has the highest value on that. Plus, if she do land her stuff, then she is pretty strong. I would kind of feel that she would be a lot better if she had the other S2. Like, we were talking the other day about, okay, what elements could take the S2 of the other unit and then become pretty good. I would say that if she had the other S2, would definitely do a lot more than that sleep that she has right now. But I still feel like I would definitely draft Isis from there, or like from time to time if I had one. Would probably not be happy with it, but I would draft. Next off, we have, of course, Nephthys. Did mention a few times already, we are not in AoE CC meta, and that definitely does hit. Oh, wow. Nephthys win rate actually went up quite a bit. It was for quite some time around 50 when I checked it last. Currently, it's getting up quite a bit more to a 51.67. 11 on the pick rate. That is definitely still quite a bit higher than I expected. I would still say Nephthys, it's always kind of good. We can't really deny that. Nephthys is gonna get a 90 for me. I was thinking more about along the lines of 85 when I saw like 50 win rate, but I would say for this, can't be biased against my own unit. I'm gonna give it a 90 for Nephthys, but I definitely don't think it's any higher than a 90. Next up, we have some Widget. Used to be all the way at the top, then they nerfed it down, no longer at the top. But is it now at the bottom? Let's see about that, what it is called for win rate. I am pretty sure I should be looking at a widget number 3. Close to 10% on the pick rate. Win rate is 50.72. It's definitely not bad, but it's definitely also not great. I do kind of like it at an 85. Yeah, I would say 85. I'm not really sure what people use it for teams too much these days. I still kind of think that you have to build your team around the widget rather than just randomly slapping in a widget in your team. But a widget draft can still be pretty annoying. I would say widget in lower ranks is probably a lot stronger, is it not? No, it's not. Surprise, surprise. Because widget is just easy to rune. It's just speed, that's it. Do we have any Amduats? No, too low pick rate. Okay, we're gonna go on to the next. We got a Smath. Smath was always hard hit by all of our CPs, auto resetters. How's it looking like right now? 45 on 15 with the win rate, with a 3.5 pick rate. That's definitely not that great for Smath. I still like myself a Smath last pick here and there, but it's also if you make a rage Smath that does do a lot of damage, you kind of feel like, okay, this thing is gonna kill everything, and then zoop, poof, and then everything is like not that, and you're like, okay, never mind. So yeah, Smath is one of those things. It can work here and there, but it's not really crazy. Deafness. I do see a few more deafness here and there, but it is not that great. 45, almost 46 on the win rate, 3 on the pick rate. Yeah, deafness. It's still a Lucksack unit. It's a 60 for me. It's nothing more than that. Ganymede, however, Ganymede is still not bad as a unit. It's a very nice support unit. However, the big issue for Ganymede is you might as well draft another unit in there that actually deals damage or something like that. So, but I would say Ganymede with a 52 win rate on a 1.3% pick rate, I would say Ganymede is not that bad. I'm gonna give it a 70 as well. Like if you have the specific team for it, Ganymede late pick can actually be pretty strong. Oberon, I think Oberon still has the hard issue where Oberon is fighting against Shizuka that kind of does the same thing, or not against Shizuka, Federica. And yeah, the Shizuka nerf kind of did hit Oberon pretty hard as well. Still a 51 win rate, only 2.5 on the pick rate. I would definitely use one for a Leo counter if I had one. And we have a whole bunch of strong-ish Leo count / last picks over here, which I think Oberon does fit in for a 75 as well. Nyx, I am pretty sure that no one uses Nyx. And if you do, maybe you should stop doing that. And then you might actually climb, because Nyx is probably not that great. 33 win rate. Aye, that unit is not great. So we're not going to be looking at that one. We can place in the Rat though. Let's see what the Rat is doing. We did have Gopso pretty much taking over the position of the Rat. Rat is slightly coming back right now. 49 on the win rate, 2.6 on the pick rate. It's not that much, but a decent Rat draft here and there might still work out as a 70 for me. Next on, we do have some Panda flavors. Panda flavor number 1 being a water one, Molong. We have a 50.62 on the win rate on a 3.55 on the pick rate, which is definitely not bad numbers for a unit that's not used that much at the moment. However, I do see it from time to time as like a weird first pick. It's always kind of dangerous, like it can hit pretty hard in the end. The S2 is nerfed in damage, but Molong doesn't really give a shit about that. It's more about the S3 now. His S3 is actually buffed where he doesn't take as much damage, so I'm actually gonna give it a 75. I do see some usages for it, for like sniping those bruiser teams out there, and it might be low-key pretty good about sniping these or these. I'm not too sure about that. Moving on next, we have a Feng Yang flavor, which is not used as much, I think. Okay, 2% pick rate, not too bad actually. And then we have a 49 win rate, which is also not too bad, but I'm gonna give it a 70. I'm not too fan of a Feng Yang. There's also too much things like Federica out there right now. Even you would stun that thing right now. All of the single targets damage dealers still kind of fuck you up. So 70 for the Feng Yang. Then we have a very interesting one, which a lot of the owners of the Tianlang are saying, like, the unit is gutted, the unit is shit, the unit doesn't do anything anymore. 52.5 win rate. Ladies and gentlemen, 52.5 win rate with a 13 pick rate. That is still absolutely very, very strong. Would I say it is stronger than the others in this list? I am feeling an in-betweener tier because Molong, or not the Molong, the real Molong is definitely worth that in-betweener tier, and I definitely do think it is stronger than the other units placed on that tier below it. And if you disagree, you're allowed to disagree. But I definitely do think that Tianlang is very strong. There's still a lot of drafts where it's just like, oh shit, now I gotta deal with the Tianlang. I kind of have to ban the Tianlang. Tianlang, high ban rate, high win rate, still does a lot of damage on the S1, still has stun potential in there. There's just a lot of stuff that make it very strong. So we're in the Heigang meta. This thing is actually one of the very few hard counters on a Heigang. He does have his usages where a Tianlang becomes pretty strong. Then we have a Miying, which is the unit I could have chosen, but I chose to go for the Dark Demon. Is that the right choice or the wrong choice for RTA? Where the hell is the panda looking at? Goofy ass looking ass panda over here. 0.43 on the pick rate, on the 52.80 on the win rate. It's just a counter to a Leo, which isn't really used that much. If I were to place it in, I would place it in probably on 60. It's not going to get much better than that. Then we have some ponies. Starting off with I'm pretty sure Amelia's not used. Elena, we can actually check. Elena from time to time can be nice in a right draft. 40 or 54 on the win rates, half a pick rate. It's not really that high, but I definitely still feel that if she's drafted on the right moment, she can be pretty strong. 70 for Elena. Moving on next, we got a Diana. Definitely a unit we don't see too much anymore, but once again, drafted in the right situation. 4% pick rate, 50.5 on the win rate. Definitely still a strong last pick. 75 for me on that Diana. It's definitely one of those units you always want to keep ruined up, just in case you do want to use it somewhere. Then let's first go for a Dark Pony. Dark Pony. It's one of the few units that can actually make a draw relatively easier than just timing it out. If someone kills you on their final hit, that they die through your reflect and you die at the same moment, you got a draw. Didn't even know that. Now you know. Alexandra, 1% pick rate. And we have a 51 on the win rate. Is it really that great? Not really, but it gets a 70. It's one of those things, if you see a cleaver, I definitely do think that if you would check lower ranks on her, yep, lower ranks, she's absolutely a lot more of a powerhouse. Because like, oh, cleave Alexandra, you're fucked. You gotta ban it or you're gonna lose. In this case, G3 a little bit less cleaves, but still definitely a very strong option out there that I would say is a very strong unit in general. Continuing on next, Tablo. I actually did see a few people bring out the tableaus again, and I'm not entirely sure what for, what changed, how to do, when, where, what, and how. 1.65 on the pick rate. It's not that much. Win rate 51. It's not that bad. Maxi on 100. Bro, you gotta give me a gram of what you're sniffing, because that shit is amazing. Let me explain why. We gotta switch away from Tablo just to explain you why the shit you're sniffing is amazing. Is this unit 100? It's 45, bro. 45 win rate. That is terrible. That's the lowest win rate I've seen on any LD5 ever. That is like picked a lot. So, yeah, no, but let's go back to the Tablo. 51 win rate. Yeah, I think it could be used. It could be used. I'm gonna give it 65. It's probably really a specific theme that people are not used to, and then therefore... Oh wait, I missed one. Liponi. Liponi as well. Let's look at the Liponi. That's actually a very high win rate unit. 54.19. That's one of the higher win rate units out there. It's sure it's not the highest of pick rates, but it's definitely for win rate is really freaking high. So that's definitely a very strong unit. It's always a late pick though, that kind of makes it worse. But it is a very strong late pick. And I started playing it a little bit more. It's also pretty hard elevated by the Velajul Chandra Sagar meta that she becomes quite a bit better. So sure, she cannot be used as much as the others that are near to her, because these are all very spammable units and she's the only non-spammable unit. But the moment she's in the draft, she's definitely gonna do her shit and be annoying. So plus her ban rate is probably also pretty decent. Yeah, it's substantial, not crazy, but substantial. Moving on next, we got some Harp mages. Pretty sure that Triana is no longer really used. People were using it a little bit as like Sonya counters. Yeah, not really. 0.72. Celia, I know it's not used, but Viva Gel, we definitely do tend to see quite some Viva Gels right now. However, not that great on the win rate. We got a pick rate of 9.5, win rate of about 46.5. Is not really that much, but I do think that Viva Gel, it's still one of those dangerous units. I do feel like Viva Gel is still a pretty strong unit. I would maybe say that she's a lot stronger in lower ranks. Yeah, in lower ranks, she definitely does show a lot more quality. She's good everywhere except G3. That's kind of the thing. We are looking at the G3 RTA tier list, but I still feel like a Viva Gel can do quite some annoying stuff. It's just a lot harder to place in G3, but I would still give Viva Gel an 80 for me. I'm not going to look too much at the win rate for that one. We got a Josephine, and Josephine was also buffed to the extent that she had more shield. Does that impact her win rate? Not that much. 3% pick rate, 42 on the win rate. I still feel like she's kind of the same thing. Looks like unit 65. She's not really never bad, super bad, but she's okay-ish here and there in certain matches. So definitely still there. We used to have a Leona that would be kind of decent. Oh, Leona has a 63 win rate. That's insanely high, but never picked, so never mind. Ophelia, probably same thing. Hernie, never picked. Abellio. Abellio is one of those units that's always weirdly high on win rate. Sure, it's like Abellio's pretty much just last pick. No one's gonna Abellio first pick. 51 win rate, 6 on the pick rate. It's still pretty high. Abellio is still one of those annoying units that you might say like, okay, definitely should have this guy in your draft. Sure, you can't really pick him all the time, but definitely do look at picking him up when you need him. Abellio gets an 80 for me for that reason. Balanus, however. Do I also have Pater in there? I do have Pater in there. Balanus. Where you at? Are you even used? You are buffed a few times as well, but you're never going to be better than Erika. Yeah, no, it's just picked too little times. Valantis. I do often get the question, would you be happy with a Valantis? I am not too sure in all honesty, because Valantis needs very specific runes. It needs faster Despair runes than all of your Fire runes, while you already have to rune so many Despair units. I would absolutely say it's a very strong last pick unit. It's an insane last pick unit, but he does kind of need that rune requirement that makes him difficult. But if he plays well in like certain matches last pick, I would absolutely feel that Valantis is a very much powerhouse. 52.75 on the win rate, 6 on the pick rate. I'm actually going to give it 85. I might be slightly biased on that, but I do think that a Valantis, especially drafted late, can be super strong. Ban rate is also pretty high for that reason. Just don't draft it too early, you're going to have issues with Juno. That's the main issue. Moving on next. Pater. One of those interesting units, can be used here and there. Is it super great? Hard to say. What does the win rate say? Win rate says, meh. 3% on the pick rate and a 49.5 on the win rate. Which for me kind of feels like a 75. Can be nice as a counter pick here and there, but it's not really working out that well. No, not working out that well. He gets a 70 for me for that reason. No, we didn't go to the art masters yet, but we are gonna get there. Bolvric. Is Bolvric used these days? I don't really think so, but we might give it a check. 1.43. Yes, 48 on the win, not too bad, but also not too great. I think it's one of those units that people kind of know how to deal with. Most of the people are not spamming that many buffs, or if they do, it's just something that they could maybe ignore or not use or something like that. So, yeah, Bolvik 70. I would still keep it ruined up. Geldnir, we did see a little bit of Geldnirs back in the days when Masha was the most dominant unit out there. Because then Geldnir could take buffs all the time, get stacks up all the time, but it's currently not used as much at all. Bella, we are getting back into a single target damage meta, so I do assume Bella to do slightly better than previous metas. 52 on the win rate, 3.5 on the pick rate. It's definitely not that much. Definitely still needs like crazy good runes to perform, which she's maybe not always worth. She's definitely not on Han level, but I still think that if you invest good runes into her, she will definitely perform at an 85 level. Do you think Maxi's win rate is so low because people just get tossed in the draft? Yeah, no, the thing is with Maxi, you can actually only draft Maxi if your whole team is based around Maxi. But if your whole team is based around Maxi, you know exactly what that team is going to be. And therefore, Maxi win rate is just... Plus, AoE CC is not really the meta right now, and Maxi is all about AoE CC meta, so... Ragdoll, Fever Shell, Widget, good combo for turn 2 RTA. I'm not sure about the Widget, but the Ragdoll, Fever Shell, definitely. It's also easy to outspeed, absolutely. There's a lot of downsides to Maximilian, because everyone expects like, oh, Maximilian is gonna move and then everything dies. And no, everything kind of dies. He's a setup. He's not really a main damage dealer for most cases. So he does do a good amount of damage, but not everything is going to instantly die. Plus you still have to outspeed, land everything, blah, blah, blah. So there's just a lot of downsides to that. Moving on next, we got a few demons. We don't have the light demon set up in here. Let's actually see. I don't think people really use light demon in RTA that much in the first place. No, well, close to 1 pick rate, but it's not that much. Pretty sure also not for the wind one. Nope, even less. Dark one. The one that I picked up from my last... bad. Well, it's 1% pick rate, so I do want to place it. 42 on the win rate. Man, I'm inting with that unit and dropping its win rate. I feel like mine is not doing that bad, but it's pretty darn bad. 65, so my blessing was a 65 and a 60. I still feel like in a good draft, where you draft him where people AoE a lot but not insta-kill you, he might do decent, but he's not really that great. 65 for that unit over there. Moving on next, we got a Barbara. And Barbara actually does represent a pretty decent win rate right now, and is actually, for some weird reason, pretty decent into Chandra Valajul. So I might give it some credit for that. Win rate is 52. Pick rate is kind of low, 167. But I do think that Barbara is maybe one of those low-key units that might be good for your draft if you can't really find anywhere to place like some high damage. Yeah, if you're kind of looking for like, oh, I have runes left over for a high speed damage dealer. Maybe look at a Barbara. I think that might actually be a call. I'm gonna give that nuts 70. No, I think Barbara low-key in current meta is pretty good. I'm gonna give it a 75. But you do have to invest those runes into it. And that's what a lot of people haven't been doing, so therefore it's not really performing. Swift or Vio? Could be both, but I would go for Vio. And then preferably something else that sets up for the Barbara. So it's a little bit heavy on double water, but if you go the water twin plus a Barbara, it's a lot of damage right there. Then we have Masha, a clean 50.53 on the win rate. Pick rate is a 22.5, which is probably one of the higher pick rates. Probably top 10 most picked units. Yeah, that's around like number 9 or 10 or so. Definitely very strong unit out there. Absolutely worth an 85 by minimum. Is it worth a 90 though? Ooh, I'm not too sure. No, I don't know. I don't feel it's as strong as a... I feel like it's stronger than the units here. Oh, we're gonna get another in-between tier. I have decided. Another in-between tier, because I do feel it's better than the things that she's in thing with. There might be a few units that follow, but I definitely do think that she's better than those right now. So Masha is gonna get an 87.5. It's just a really good killer of like Valajul can kind of kill that. Cigar that's coming later can pretty much kill that. It's good into the Cigar in the first place, which is the most picked unit out there. Oliver is still a thing, so Masha is definitely a unit that's a very strong counter pick that you do want to have in your draft always. Is it stronger than the Fire Monkey in current meta? Yes, I would agree actually. So we move on with a Savannah. Was recently buffed mainly on the Awakening. So 25 extra free stats on accuracy. But does that actually make you good in current meta? 25 picks in G3. I think Loki, maybe she... No, wait, we're not in AoE CC meta, so no, probably not great. Probably not great. Never mind. Next one, Nasha. Single target damage meta, and she is a single target damage dealer that does represent that. Pick rate, very low. 53.24 on the win rate is definitely very high. 3% pick rate is definitely not that high, but I would absolutely say she's an 80 for me. She's not going to be any higher than that. She's still kind of hard to draft her in. There's the Leo, there's a bunch of other counters. But if you do use her, and maybe with like a pure vanilla cookie, water, attack buff, speed buff, immunity, she's gonna slap the living shit out of units. So, and yeah, ban rates is 23. It's definitely a decent ban rate as well. Yep. 80 for the Narsha. Then we have Sienna, which I think we did have a few people that spammed a lot of Sienna, and even the Sienna spammers are like, nah, Lucia just kind of ruined it. Pick rate is just also really low, win rate's pretty low as well. But in previous metas, it used to be quite a bit higher where she was spammable after a Nephthys or Maximilian or anything like that. Currently, with Lucia and anything like that out there, it's just getting worse and worse. So we don't really have to place her in. I don't specifically have to place all of my LDs, so I'm just gonna leave her over there. But then we go on to the Hey Gang, the pinnacle of everyone's 8s. A unit that is actually climbing in win rate, which is pretty interesting. Well, I think that he's mainly, together with the bruises of Sagar, Chandra, Valajul, and then a Hey Gang, makes it that Hey Gang's win rate is climbing. 50 on the win rate, 33.5 on the pick rate. That is the 4th most picked unit with a positive win rate. It is definitely a powerhouse of a unit. And Hey Gang definitely does deserve. I feel like Hey Gang is currently in meta stronger than he was in previous meta. But do I feel like he is absolutely insane god tier units, can't play against it, can't have to first pick it? No, not really, not really. It's definitely a very strong unit, but I do feel like a Valajul or a Chandra is stronger than it. But I would agree that it is stronger than these units at the moment. So Hey Gang is gonna get a 92.5 for me. Does that mean would you nerf Hey Gang? They could, but for me, nerfing, I was never that much on the nerf Hey Gang kind of stuff. But I feel like Hey Gang is pretty strong. Then we have an interesting unit that actually took quite some hits, and I've been de-runing for quite a bit, which is Changpeng. I think Changpeng in lower ranks definitely will do quite a bit better, but in G3 you do have a lot more of the just things that counter it. And Lucia's, Triple Revenge Words, whole bunch of other things. Still a decent unit, nevertheless, but it's definitely not top tier anymore. If you would say like, okay, I can't really miss another Vio set to make it fast enough or anything like that, I would say the first one to gut is probably your CP. It's still a good unit, it's still pretty good, it's definitely still not bad. 80 is absolutely not bad, but if you're looking at like, oh, I kind of need runes somewhere else, on one of the better units, maybe you could take it from. But 80 is definitely not bad, don't get me wrong on that. Then we have, I'm pretty sure Jogun is not used. CP or Vio? I would say Vio still. Also Vio because the Despair is slightly nerfed. Before with the Despair buff, where Despair didn't care about elements, I would say that. Yeah, it's also Sagar is a lot stronger than Changpeng because the S2 and S1 of Sagar are just a lot more impactful. Next on we have Jogun. Let's just see if he's actually being used. I'm pretty sure he's not being used enough. Nope. Mukwo. I think Mukwo is only good if you have a Han. Without Han, Mukwo is probably not interesting at all. Yeah, and it's also kind of shown over here, so I'm just not gonna place Mukwo in, but I would say Mukwo with a Han is probably like 80-ish. Without a Han, it's like straight up 60. More. We used to have a more meta. Currently, not that much of a more meta. Pick rate still pretty decent, mainly just because people are used to it. 48.38 on the win rates. Not crazy good. It's also not crazy bad. I still give more an 85. It's absolutely still a unit you can use. But it's not really his meta that anymore, but he's still absolutely good. Douglas did actually recently get a buff where it's a higher chance for his skill 2 to hit the double thing. I think it's skill 2, right? Well, at least the counter and the skill 2. Now let's see if that actually does represent in a higher win rate. 49.92 on the win rate on a 2.5 on the pick rate. So he's definitely not spammed that much. But if he's fitting in the draft, he's fitting right. So ban rate, yeah, the ban rate is insane. Ban rate is second highest in game. Pretty sure, second highest. Yep, second highest in game. We got to give him value for that. Let's go for that. That's 80 on the ban rate. That is insane. Let's place Douglas on an 80, even though that he's not picked much. But the moment that he's in the draft, let's see if he actually wins more in the draft or outside of the draft. I'm pretty curious about that. 4v4. Oh, of course, then we don't have the ban rate, so we have to search up the Douglas again. Douglas. Yeah, it's one of those units that he's more winning the draft than winning the match. That's I'm not surprised about that. So he's not higher than an 80 for that reason, but he's winning drafts rather than winning matches. Next off, we have, well, Van Cleef is not used. Carnal. Carnal. Do people use Carnal these days? I haven't really seen too much Carnal. It's not bad, though. 49.13 on the win rate, 5.52 on the pick rate. Absolutely not a bad unit. Not crazy good, but definitely not bad. I would give Carnal 75. You see a lot of high damage Carnals these days. Crit rate, crit damage. Not that much additional damage artifacts anymore. Just make sure that you have like armor breaks in there and then Carnal and crit rate, crit damage. It's definitely gonna do a lot of work. Been playing around with that last season, current season, not as much anymore. But then we go to the real powerhouse, the most picked unit with being active in more than or almost half of the matches while still being on a 51 win rate and also having a decent first pick rate, Sagar. Sagar is really strong, and I think Sagar also fits over there. Would I actually say that Valajul maybe also fits over there? No, actually, I feel that... No, I'm actually gonna one down that. I feel like that Sagar is... I feel like Chandra is the most overtuned between the three of them. Like, and Chandra is also the most first picked. And Sagar is Chandra very... Yeah, I would say so. I do agree with that. Because a Sagar without those two doesn't really do that much. A Sagar into those two doesn't really do that well. But the Sagar with those is really strong. So I think Sagar is more of like carried by... then a Chandra by itself is gonna do great. A Valajul by itself is gonna do pretty good. So, and yeah, this being the first pick just gives you the extra edge, because the others are, yeah, this is just so much more first pick material than this or this. And yeah, I would definitely say that Chandra is higher up, so Sagar gets the 95 for me. Absolutely, an absolute powerhouse of a unit. Moving on next, we have a Karek, which... you do see being used from time to time by certain players, but 36.36 win rate, probably they don't even use it anymore. Gurkha, I just want to see how bad it is. Well, his brother is worse. Lulu is not that great. Oh, then we have the next thing, which I'm just so happy about to see on such a low win rate. The sack unit of the ages, Shizuka. It's like, oh, if I just resist the pushbacks and the resets and the strips, I will instantly win your stupid ass match. Well, currently, not that much anymore. 46 on the win rate, which for me just gets... I have to respect her. She's definitely decent, but it's... I would say, I think she's the lowest win rate for the most... or for a high pick unit. Is there anything lower in win rate than her? Nope. She's absolutely the worst in win rate for as much as she's picked. Like, everything that's picked a lot is at least like 48... except Maximilian, but like 48, 47, yeah, this is still 48, so everything is kind of like 48, where she's just brocking like 46. Fuck this unit. 75 for Shizuka for that reason. Let's see what we have next. I just wanted to let you know I'm lurking since years and back. Oh, thank you very much for lurking. Lurkers are always welcome. Then we go on moving next with a Tomoe. Tomoe is definitely getting... people are getting used to it. I would say Tomoe with the draft of Tomoe, Heigang, Layla, blah, 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 those kind of units. It's probably better in lower ranks, but even in lower ranks, people are like, I can kind of deal with this. But in this rank, she's really not rocking that great. So Tomoe, there are a few people that call her the best speed lead out there. I am not one of those people. I would say I do value her for a little bit. But no, actually don't value her that much. I'm just gonna give Tomoe straight up a 70. She's really, if you use her, you need to build up a whole team around her, and if you don't have Heigang in your team, you're probably fucked anyway. So yeah, Tomoe gets a 70 from me. I don't really like the unit. If you know that you're playing against Tomoe player, just steal Heigang. Yeah, it's lower than Shizuka for sure. So yeah, not great. Gyu, also known as Gyu. What does Gyu do these days? Around same-ish. 47.5 on the win rate, pick rate, round 3. Placing that, same as Tomoe on... Well, wait, that was a Panda. Wait, I did the switch. Wow, that was fast as fuck. I'm fucking Barry Allen. I did switch like that and you didn't even know. Okay, but no. Yeah, she gets like a 70 for me. Does she get lower than a 70 for me? No, it's... Gyu, like, if Gyu managed to get the sack off, Gyu will win you matches. But you gotta feel lucky on that one. So 70 for Gyu. Let's look at a Seimei. The newest pickup of Obabo. Gloria still uses it a lot. I use it from time to time if it fits. If it fits, she's really strong. If you force her in, she's not that great. So I would say close to 50 win rate, or no, 49.5. It's not even that close to 50. 4 on the pick rate. I'm gonna give, yeah, 75. I kind of feel like that I would use the Seimei as much as I would use my Chroma in current state of the game. So yeah, ban is 29. Ban is decent though, but I want to compare that to a Chroma. Chroma, what's your ban rate? Yeah, okay, a little bit more. Do we want up that for the ban rate? Well, it's not a ban rate like a Douglas though. Yeah, okay, I'll one her upper for the ban rate. I'll give her that one up. Because she is kind of annoying in the must ban in some matches where she would just instantly win. Fair. But then we have the sister, which I think is quite a bit stronger, but let's see how much stronger. We have a Dumon at a close to 51 win rate, 8 on the pick rate, definitely very strong into that Gapdol kind of shenanigans, because she can just kill the Gapdol in Gapdol taking 4 turns, which is definitely very strong. Is she super OP though? Not really, but I'm giving Dumon a 85. I definitely feel like she's a fair 85. Wouldn't necessarily say she's higher than an 85. But definitely a strong unit. You do see her a lot on Swift these days, just so she can move first. Then next off, we have some... Because of the 85 check. Yeah, that's true. Like, if she misses her skill, like, if she would always land her skill 3, she would be straight up here or, like, here for me. Like, no capping. But since she can miss and then take quite some time to get a skill back up, especially if she's Swift, yeah, then she's 85 for that. Onimushas. Suiki. We don't really see too much Suiki. Suiki kind of came to meta because Kinky was dominant in meta. Kinky no more dominant in meta. Suiki no more dominant in meta. Let's actually see how bad it is for Kinky at the moment in the meta. Let's see. That's not crazy bad. 2% pick rate still. 46 on the win. It is maybe used into ragdolls here and there, but it's not great that much. 10% ban. I would say that she does kind of, or he does kind of fit. No, I'm gonna give it a 65. Sure, Kinky can still work here and there, but it's not really that crazy. Let's see about the Dark Onimusha, because we have been saying it a few times, it's no longer really AoE CC meta, or AoE damage meta, and this thing is mainly AoE damage. Can still dish out pretty decent damage. Single target. Win rate is 1.82, no, wait. Pick rate 1.28. Flipping everything around now. Win rate is 48.5. A bit more than that. I would say that you are not really great. I would still say, like, as a last pick here and there can be pretty strong, or if you happen to have like a Nefties and you have some AoE armor break setups, Nana, maybe those kind of things still in there, it can still be decent, but I think that if you pair this thing with anything that is not AoE armor break, it's not really going to do any great, so yeah. Do you think any of the Beast Monks are playable? No, I don't think so. In G3 RTA, no. Maybe in lower RTA, yes, but in G3 RTA, no. It's also that everything they do is based off of HP scaling, and HP scaling goes down in the match. So the longer the match takes and they can't manage to get any kills in, it's just gonna get worse. Kumar, no, I don't think so either. I can give a quick check on Kumar, but I'm pretty sure it's not even used. Kumar. Yeah, yeah, that probably says enough. And in other ranks, yeah, I guess that says enough, right? So, nope. Answer is nope. Then where were we? We were at a Nana. Do we still see a decent amount of Nana these days? Don't really think so. Well, if you see Nana, it's mainly an Onmyouji or a Ragdoll or something like that. Sarath is also 0.5% pick rate. I feel like a Nana draft, it's still decent to have in there. It can counter the single target snipes from like Federica and Sonia and a bunch of other things. Those were G1 stats. Fair point. G3 stats, a little bit lower. Still 8% pick rate, which is not that low. Ban rate pretty decent. Yeah, I'm still gonna give Nana 75. I would say if you have a Ragdoll or an Onmyouji, it's probably 80. Without it, it's just a 75. It's just a... This tier list hurts so badly because the units you have are low in ranks. Well, everyone and their mom has these three, right? At least these two. Moving on next. Coco was buffed recently, but not really to extent where people started using it. Nope. Kinky, or not. Kiki. Nope. Where's Farad? Farad had like 0.5% pick rate as well. Farad is only good if you have a Widget or a Laura. Otherwise, Farad is not used. So, just for those LDs pairing it, and then still a low pick rate and a low win rate, doesn't really make Farad that great. Next up is a Miles. Missing Vela. Vela's all the way at the top, bro. He is all the way up. Oh, you are missing it, I guess. Miles, 6% pick rate, 47 on the win rate. Does it still go up in high and lower ranks? Yep. Yeah, and G3 RTA, Miles is just kind of used to, taken care of. It's also Chandra's hard countering Miles because of the AoE slow. So Miles is not bad, but I just give Miles a 70. It's not really something that you still want to keep it ruined up, but it's not really that great anymore. So, am I actually going to... Yeah, I'm going to put it on 70. I feel like it's more of a 70 unit these days. John, pretty sure that's not used. Bombers are just in general not really used, except for... bad. Then we have Oliver. Oliver, how is Oliver still doing? 49.40 on the win rate, 16 on the ban. First pick, it's still first pickable. Third most picked units, decent amount of bans still. But it is very interesting to see from the top 10-ish units that are most picked, he's the only one below 50 win rate. That is an interesting one. And for that reason, Oliver is definitely no longer as strong as used to be. And I think, would this be fair or unfair for Oliver? Because I feel like that Vanessa is a stronger first pick than Oliver at the moment. Pick rates, win rates kind of do represent that. But they're kind of on similar level, to be fair. Nah, I think I would do Oliver dirty if I would place it that low. I'm still gonna give Oliver a 90. Is Chandra really that good? Yeah, Chandra is really that good. Moving on next. Daniel. Probably not really used. Nope. Slot 4 crit rate, 7 deaths, should keep exchanging it for the event. Or use for long. Event is still very early, I would keep rolling it. You have like literally 41 more days, just keep re-rolling it. There's no reason to be hasty to pick those runes. I am surprised that some people already picked both of the runes. It's like, how the hell did you either roll that good or did you just take something absolutely terrible? Jackson has a very high win rate. Ban rate, absolutely high. Pick rate, very low. So the issue with Jackson is he fits in very few matches. But the moment he fits, he is pretty much a win guaranteed. But he fits in a lot less matches than, for example, Seimei. So for that reason, I'm gonna give Jackson, I think still 75. Like the win rate is pretty high though. Ban rate is also pretty high. It's one of the higher bans out there, I guess. Yeah, it's one of the higher bans out there. So yeah, I'm gonna give Jackson a 75. Pick is 1%, pick is 1%, but I still think the win is pretty high though. Let's see about Jackson in lower ranks. Because I definitely do think that Jackson at the right draft, yeah, it's like... Pick rate is everywhere very low, but win rate is everywhere consistently over. So I would say that he's pretty nice. Not crazy good, 75 in the end is nothing crazy. But it's kind of like the Acroma level of like, okay, if you pick it in the right draft, it's gonna do good for you. Moving on next, some Robo flavors. Wind Robo. I think Wind Robo's getting hit quite a bit. Yeah, 49 win rate pretty much. Close to 70 on pick rate. Wind Robo is definitely taking a few hits. It still can be used, so I'm gonna give it an 80. I would definitely say Dark Robo is quite a bit more fitting right now. 51 on the win rate and 13 on the pick rate. That's actually a lot more fitting. Wow. But yeah, the thing is, you can use the Dark Robo with the Sierra Sibala draft. That's definitely very strong. There's a few other things where you can also use it pretty effectively. So I would give Dark Robo 85. I'm going to give Dark Robo higher than 85. No, I feel like he's fair on an 85. It's a good unit, but you kind of need to have like your exact team around it to be able to use it. But when you use it in there, it's definitely very effective. Let's move on to the next. A bunch of those Elias and stuff is all not used. Maybe Ella is used, but I can only think of one player or two players that are actually using her. Okay, that's actually quite a bit more used than I thought. Well, then again, Hanselot plays a shit ton of matches, so it might be just him. Wait, let's actually see if it's just him. It could actually be a thing. How many matches of... Oh, wait, he's not even in here. Surprised about that. But yeah, it's just one guy using this thing a shit ton. So it's a little bit of a cloud of win rate. Let's call it that way. But since the pick rate is there, I think she's okay-ish. She's kind of like an... like Light Baller Queen, but worse. I'm gonna give that a 70. Yeah, that's true. If you have Dark Robo without Sibala, it's pretty much... I think with Sibala, it's maybe there. If you have Sibala, Yeon Hong, it's definitely up there. But without it, if you just try to Sierra Dark Robo, it's not really that great. I think Dark Robo is kind of the pairing with the LDs. If you do have like Yeon Hong and Sibala and Abunsa and then Neftis, it definitely climbs up in ranks, but without that, it's just 85. We were at these, pretty sure that these are not used. Then we go into a Carlos. And let's see what Carlos does these days. Carlos, it is used. 48.67 on the win rate, 1.35 on the pick rate. It's not great, but can see it being used here and there. Carlos 65 for me. It can be used as like a Sonya counter, but the big issue is he will most likely just glance on Sonya because he's just that low in speed. Next up, we have a Dominic, which I do think is a low-key unit that is something that a lot more people should pick up. If more people do pick it up, it will definitely drop in win rate. But I think that Dom is the highest win rate over 2% pick rate at the moment of any of the units. Is that true? Yeah. Because those are all lower than 1%. And Dom is the first one over 2% with an insane high win rate. So I think Dom is one of those sleeper units. And why is Dom a sleeper unit that is really good? It can actually kill a Velajul and a Chandra pretty well. And also a Cigar, if it just has once on the Cigar because it was provoked, he will slap the living shit out of Cigar still. His issue, however, is if he's below 50% HP, he will do a lot less damage. But I think that Dom is definitely one of those, since I think if more people start using him, his win rate will drop. But Dom is absolutely one of those sleeper units I think more people should pick up in their draft again. And it can do quite well on its stuff. Then we have the most interesting unit out there for this tier list, in my opinion. We have Maximilian on the lowest win rate of any LD5 I have ever seen. That is close to 10% pick rate. Like if we just select it by win rate on lowest, all of those units that have super low win rate, they're all like 1% picks, a 3, a 2, 1%, blah, blah, blah. This thing is close to 10% picked, and it's performing that bad because Maximilian is just that obvious of a draft. I would definitely say if we go Maximilian in lower ranks, it will definitely perform pretty decent. Yeah, close to 50, close to 50. Like, it's not crazy. It's not like people do think Maximilian is like a god tier 55% win rate kind of unit. No, even in lower ranks, it's not really that great. So math could be there because of pick with Maxi. It could be very true. I still think that Maxi is decent, but the big issue in G3 is you have to build your whole team around it, and you are super predictable. So, I don't know. His SW Arena win rate is 54 in G3. I think that those win rates are different. I'm not sure why these numbers are different. I'm going to give it 1 up, maybe an 80. A lot of people are going to be like, oh, why is Maxi so low? I definitely don't think Maxi is that great in current meta because everything is just countering. The moment that there's an Hey-Gang, you have an issue. The moment that there is an Abellio, you have an issue. The moment that there's a Ragdoll, you have an issue. You can get outsped, that is an issue. There's just a lot of issues to a whole Maximilian draft, why I think it's not that great. Plus, it used to be paired with a Veronica. Oh, by the way, SW Arena counts in the whole season. So that is a lot of matches from previous season as well, where we didn't have, or previous balance patch, let's call it that way. So in current balance patch, yeah, it does. So in current balance patch, the win rate of Maximilian. So for that reason, also Lucia's hard counted this thing. There's just a lot of things that hard counted this thing. Plus the whole draft is super predictable. And I think that this thing is only slightly spammable if you also have, like, let's say a Tian Lang. So someone Hey-Gangs or someone Ragdolls, you slap in a Tian Lang. I would say then a Maximilian could be pretty decent. But without a Tian Lang or a Veronica or a Laura or anything like that, Maximilian drafts are not really that great. Plus, it's very hard to fit in a Maximilian in your 5th slot, because if you want to fit in Maximilian in your 5th slot, you already have to have 2 AoE strippers and 1 speed lead, not 2 speed leads. So it really just doesn't fit that often. So I'm gonna make it 80. But the win rate shows lower than that. Yeah, you actually need LDs that are more OP than Maximilian to make Maximilian work. Then that doesn't make Maximilian necessarily a good unit. Very well said. So let's move on. I'm definitely going to be getting a lot of questions like, oh, you put your own unit that low. Well, I got Nefties in there. That's still fine. Is there a unit 100 right now? I don't think so. And that's actually the interesting about, well, we had balance patches before where there was not a single unit at 100. But I do think that we see the most amount of wind, fire, and, or let's say non-LD units at the top of the tier list. I would say that this is one of the tier lists that's a lot more normal elemental focused than LD focused. Sure, there's like a few LDs that are OP, but it's not like, oh, the 10 LDs are the most OP and then everything below that is like the rest, you know? But let's move on. I do actually kind of want to put in Royd. It was kind of meta because people started copying. I also did that. What Les was doing, the winner of last year and also the winner of 2019. Is it really a great unit? No, it just kind of worked because people weren't really used to it. That's the thing. In all honesty, it's like a 65 unit. But yeah, it's just something that people picked up, people weren't used to, and then it was actually kind of a semi-Oliver that could armor break and blah, 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 but it's actually not that crazy good. It can make some sacky matches pretty decent. Yeah, less runes and LDs. He also did pair it together with a Julian, which is strongest single target damage dealer in the game that can really provide from a armor break. So those parts definitely do help out a bit. Next up, Minato. And Minato, we don't really see too much. It's more of a counter into AoE meta. 3% pick rate, 48.5 on the win rate. It's not bad. It's not bad. I'm just gonna give that a 70. Not crazy good. But I feel it's more than 70? Nah, I don't feel like it's as good as a 75. Oh, Ren. Let's see what Ren does these days. 1% pick rate, 45 on the win rate. The only Ren user that I really like at the moment is Soapster, who uses Ren together with a Wounsa, and then the wounds are faster than the Ren. And therefore you have AoE strip into AoE absorb plus silence, which is pretty strong. But Ren is just a counter pick. Not really that great. 65. With the Wounsa like he plays it, I would definitely give it like 75-ish. But it's not really used as much. And also not used to that great extent. These are not used. I do want to place in Ritsu. I want to check Shun as well, just for the sake of checking. Shun 41. Terrible. Ritsu, because Ritsu is buffed. That's the only reason I want to place Ritsu in, because it's recently buffed. And I pulled it, but mainly because it's buffed. Let's see where this stupid ass, goofy ass looking unit is at. I should be looking at it. Tell me if you see him. Oh, found him. Okay. It's not the worst on win rate. It's not the worst. 49 pick rate. 0.70. Not that much. I wouldn't say straight up trash tier. I would say if Ritsu lands his shit, it's not that bad. Like, in honesty, it's not that bad if he would always land his lock state. But the issue is he doesn't. I played against it one match, it missed. So yeah, I'm just gonna give Ritsu 55. Fuck that unit, stupid unit. Next on, we go on with Amber. Don't really think we see too much Ambers these days. Most of the time you think Amber could do some and doesn't really do it. Kind of represents in there. I did notice that we do see a lot more Sonias in a very high win rate. 52.5 on the units. That is picked a lot, which is pretty impressive. It's also, I would say, G3 Sonias are pretty impressive in general. They are like insane on fucking stats. But it is definitely a very high win rate throughout. Let's see, in the 4v4, I'm actually curious about it. Still higher, ban rate 42, wow. That's insane. Okay, I guess Sonia is pretty good at the moment. But how good do I feel about Sonia? I kind of feel like a 92.5. In G3, yes. I think in lower ranks, it's more easy to trap them and that kind of stuff. It is more of like a late pick than an early pick. But it's definitely one of those super dangerous picks that you have to value pretty high. And yeah, I definitely do think it's stronger than the 90 units though. By just pure statistics, I would say yes, but how I feel about it, I would say no, because it is often a trade 1-for-1, and for that reason, I'm gonna lower it down to 90, because it's very often that trade 1-for-1 is like, oh, Sonia kills something, you kill Sonia, let's call it a 3v3 as if it's like freaking Siege, right? So for that reason, I'm gonna give it a 90. There is, however, the thing that you could hug the Sonia, but the big issue for Sonia is this thing skill 1 fucking slaps you. It always crits. So this thing is just like 2 hitting this. This thing is 1 hitting that on the other end, but you kind of know what I mean. But I think that Sonia's pretty good because you can technically one-shot a Chandra, you can one-shot a Cigar. So you do have that one as well. So I would say Sonia, I'm going to give that a 90. Win rates do show a little bit higher than that, but I think I value it more at a 90. Veronica, interesting one as well. Definitely nerfed in last balance patch. A lot of people said like, unusable, terrible unit, blah, 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 terrible. It definitely did drop in a lot of win rate. It was actually 54 on the win rate. Pick rate was definitely higher as well. Still a 50.74 on the win rate, 6 on the pick rate. Is definitely still strong. Is no longer my most wanted unit. I would say she is definitely very strong still, but she's absolutely not representing anything like absolute top tier anymore. Would I say that she's maybe even below this? Pick rate and win rate are kind of representing that. Not too sure. I would definitely say she's weaker than Tian Lang right now. I would absolutely say that. But is she weaker than those units? Yeah, I would say so at the moment, actually. I think that you can make more wins and more work of like a Han, Ragdoll, Yeon Hong, Neftis, and this thing even, than that you can make of a Veronica right now. And that's maybe also why the win rate of Maxi dropped, because a lot of the Maxi users were Veronica users. So it was maybe like a... Yeah, that was just... Yeah, that's actually pretty fair fact, because the Ezio draft was never really crazy. The Maximilian Ezio draft was never super great. But the Veronica Maximilian draft was really strong. But Veronica being nerfed does mean that Maximilian also will perform worse. Plus, it's not really the meta where she shines that much with the AoE CC stuff, so she definitely did take quite a bit of a hit. If you discount T1, is Hey Gang really that useful? Or tier below? Who is T1? TL? Tianleng? Do you call that T1? Who the hell calls Tianleng T1? Never heard that. Or turn 1. Who the hell says T1 instead of just turn 1? No, I do think that Hagen, throughout the match itself, with all of the cleanses getting ATB, it's the same as like a Ragdoll. Ragdoll does more than just turn 1. SKT1, yeah, I was literally SKT, like, I was literally thinking about that. Now, Hagen, like in the match, if Hagen is drafted in the match where there's multiple cleansers, and there's like more uptime of buffs throughout the match itself, Hagen is still very strong. It's not just turn 1. And especially where you have this thing with a strip on skill 1, you actually have to be careful to not strip things because then it will cleanse and blah, blah, blah. And since there's quite a few buff providers that are very strong, such as the Valkyrja, Hagang does have value as well. A good draft is literally those 4. So Hagang win rate is boosted by these 3. Absolutely. Also, it's going pretty good, pretty good. Let's check about Destiny. Destiny is one of those units I would build as a Leo counter. Does not perform that well as a Leo counter. 125 on the pick rate, 46 on the win rate. Is not that high. 65. I do think it is pretty good as a Leo counter, though. I would absolutely use that as a Leo counter. 34 ban. Yeah, that's... Well, let's make it 70. Let's make it 70. Let's actually see in the 4v4. Oh, it's lower. Fuck. Nah, I'm gonna give it 70. People just bought it wrong. Next off, this one is an interesting one as well. The Hollyberry Cookie Fire, recently buffed. I have seen some replays where you just couldn't deal any damage to anything whatsoever. But it's more of a goofy unit than a really good unit with 45 win rate. Lower ranks do have a little bit higher win rate. Yeah, it's more of a goofy unit than a really good unit. Pick rate is definitely there, so we're definitely going to be placing it. But is it really of a great unit? Not really so much. I'm gonna put it 65, to be honest. Yeah, 65. I think the unit is pretty fake. I do agree. The fuck am I hearing? No clue. Moving on. We have an Artery. That unit is kind of fake too. I would say slightly underrated, but also slightly fake. Win rate is fucking insane, but that's just very few people using her. I do feel like that she's kind of a sleeper unit that might be good. I feel like she's somewhat underrated, so I am gonna place her in. I'm not gonna place her high, but I'm gonna place her in. I think an Artery would do pretty decent as well. Just as like a whole bruiser thing, then we have a lot of bruiser units these days. She can kind of fit in with that whole bruiser meta. Do you mean fake? Fake as in people expect it to do good and then it's bad. This one is really fake. Artery is not really fake. Because people don't expect it to do good. Giselle. And Giselle is not that great. Not an AoE CC meta. So doesn't really fit her too well. But let's actually see how that would fit her at the moment. 48 win rate is not that bad. 1.2 on the pick rate is also not that great. But the win rate is not that bad. I'm going to give it 70 as well. We're not in AoE CC meta? Not really. It's more single target / bruiser meta. Then we continue on with Pure Vanilla Cookie. Pure Vanilla Cookie, which is definitely a pretty strong unit at the moment. This one. Win rate is kind of low-ish though. Pick rate is pretty high. Pick rate is close to 10. Win rate is 48. I would definitely say that that is a pretty strong unit. Yeah, an 80. I definitely do think that's an 80. Ban rate 38, that is definitely pretty high as well. I don't really feel like she fits the 85 because I do think that she mainly fits if you are spamming, for example, a Narsha, a lot of Sonias, those kind of things. Without that, it's a little bit worse, but I would say that Pure Vanilla Cookie on 80 definitely does fit. Moving on next with these, Lucia, wait, Lucia. Lucia is a powerhouse, annoying unit right now. Win rate did drop a little bit, pick rate is pretty high, but 50 win rate on a 9 pick rate is absolutely, for me, an 85. She's super annoying. It is kind of the thing, you want to build a triple revenge, you kind of want her to do the healing. Doesn't always heal, ban rate is pretty high, yes. But yeah, moment that she just doesn't heal on the counter, she's kind of bad, but still she's super annoying. 85 for Lucia. We do see that Angela is picked from time to time as well, but it is quite a bit worse, I would say. Let's see how much worse. No, that's just a lot less picked. How about the dark one? Elena? Ellie? Something like that. Almost pick never. Win rate insanely high, but that's just like a few matches of less. That doesn't really count. I think she's not bad into like ragdoll kind of comps, because you do have the Oblivion, you do have strip without touching them, but if it's picked that little, I'm just not going to place it in. Let's look at Sibala. Sibala is 12 and a half, or close to 12 and a half. Win rate is 49. Definitely a pretty decent unit. But I would also say, I'm going to give it 85. Yeah, Sibala's worth an 85. Just an overall solid unit. I would say if you do use Sibala, it's mostly in the specific comp. Like Sibala without a Dark Robo, I probably would not use a Sibala. It's kind of that the pairing of the two, probably with a Sierra as well. It's kind of the pairing that you want to use. But mainly the Robo and the Sibala. Otherwise, I wouldn't really be using Sibala if you're not maining the Robo as well. Then we have Zima, which we did see a little bit. It's the meta coming in. It wasn't performing that well, but still, it's okay-ish. 47.5, pick rate on 3. I would say it's an okay-ish unit, but I'm not going to give it more than 75. I don't feel like it's super great. Then next off, we have the Smicer, which is, I would say, more of an annoying unit than a super great unit. But it's definitely pretty good. 50 win rate is actually not bad. On an 18 pick, that's actually quite a bit higher win rate than I thought. Yeah, top 20 most used unit with above 50 win rate. That's definitely not bad. I would definitely say that Sibala or Smicer is really good together with the Chandra, Sagar, blah, 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 those kind of units. So, am I going to value you higher than the others? Yeah, actually, I might. Wait. What is the win rate on the other units that are similar rank? No, Sierra's already higher than that. Would I maybe one-up Sierra compared to the others? Sierra is pretty high on the pick rate / win rate. Yeah, I feel like Sierra goes one-up. But Smicer is on the same level. Do I feel like any of the others are one-up? Nah. Isn't Sibala an Elenoa thing? No, not really. It's too much of the same. Sibala, Elenoa, you just throw a Juno and you counter both. But yeah, I would say that Smicer is very good in meta, mainly because of these three. Because these three plus a Smicer is very nice. This thing against these three can be pretty nice too. So it's just that Smicer has issues against you and you. But Sean, it's not an AoE CC meta, so you're not having as many AoE strips, and Sean always needs 2 AoE strips, so for that reason, Sean is not that great. But yeah, I would value the Sierra to that extent. Let's move on. Then we have a Kavachi, which is a very interesting unit at the moment. Since we have a single target damage dealing meta, he is the best setup as in the form of tech buff. So we were saying before, highest on win rate. He is actually the highest on win rate that is close to 10% pick, which is really insane, and probably for that reason one of the stronger units out there. It does kind of need to have, let's say, a Julian next to it to shine that well. Its win rate is very much based on do you have a Julian or not. And for that reason, I'm not too sure if I place it any higher than this, but I would say that he is insanely good. With this win rate and that pick rate, That is pretty nice. And the people that do have him mostly spam him / pick him early. And it's mainly the Julian pair. Like if you have it with Julian, like if you have them together, they end up there, both of them, easy. But without one another, I feel like it's probably this. So I'm gonna put Kofachi at 95 for that reason. Who thought about that, about Kofachi? It used to be one of the lower ones out there. And then we have Zinazak, which is pretty solid now as well. Win rate is actually dropping a little bit. Mostly Kofachi G3 is first pick without Jilin nowadays. Yeah, you see a few of them. Like Big V is playing it without, but there's like quite some that are doing with, like for example, Pafix. Well, Kofachi win rate actually did drop. People are getting a little bit more used to playing against it. I still think it's a pretty solid unit, so I'm gonna place it at 80. It is a super hard counter pick, and it's pretty decent on the ban as well. So Zinazek gets an 80 for me. Definitely an annoying unit to deal with. Then we're gonna get into Light Ivor territory, which used to be absolute god tier units, is currently no longer super god tier unit, but still 53 win rate on a 6.5 or even 6.8 pick rate, which is definitely, well, the Veronica was nerfed, but this thing was also nerfed, but this thing was definitely not hit as much as that the Veronica was. And I think that Light Ivor and the 92.5 feels fitting. I think the 90 would the 90 maybe be fitting more? No, I think I'm actually fitting her more on the 90. She does have a little bit more issues with her landing a shit, seeing more Vio Ivor. That's true. You definitely do see more Vio Ivor because it's just more chance of landing your shit. But yeah, I would say maybe a 90 fits her better at this time. Yep, let's continue on. We do see Dark Ivor. Well, the win rate of Dark Ivor is clouded by just a few people spamming it in a specific draft that they want to use it at. Therefore, win rate is 53, but pick rate is below 1%, so it's not really something I want to place in. The Fire, Federica. Federica is definitely something you see a lot. Everyone has a Federica build up if you have the unit. 49.28 on the win rate. Pick rate is a 9. I would say it's definitely a very nice unit. Everyone should have that in the draft. 85. It is difficult to build a Federica that kills everything. So if you make a Federica that can kill like Ragdolls and these and these and these, if you kill all of those, she becomes super good, maybe even higher than that. If she always misses by a little bit of HP, she falls down. So she's very much rune-based. Can you build her strong enough? But I would give her an 85. Federica is definitely a dangerous unit. Plus, ban rate is one of the higher bans in game. Pretty sure. Yeah, it's definitely one of those. For the units that are high-picked, she's like number 3 on like a high ban. So that is definitely a value for her as well. Federica on that rank. Next one, we do see that Dark Cassandra, 3% pick rate. It's not bad. I would say that she fares best if you place her with Sibala draft. Then she would become pretty nice. Without Sibala draft, she's not crazy good, but I would say 80. She definitely has her niche usage where if there's a draft on the enemy side where they don't have a strip, it's kind of rare, but it could happen. It's pretty nice, but I think she's best paired if you already have a Sibala draft. Without that, it's not really crazy good, but it's a decent unit for an 80 right there. Moving on next, we have the Water Ezio, and Water Ezio is pretty much just used with Maximilian, and Maximilian is doing bad. Therefore, Water Ezio is doing bad. 46 on the win rate. So Water Ezio has a higher win rate than Maximilian, which is actually pretty interesting. It's pretty sad, but also pretty interesting. So yeah, Ezio is going to get a 70 for me for that reason. Moving on next, we have the Light Ezio, also known as Ian. Let's see what he does these days. Below 1% pick rate. It's very niche. It can stomp something through a passive, but it's kind of niche. An interesting one that I've seen being used quite some, I'm not entirely sure what against, but I've seen this thing being used quite some, is Eshir, also known as the Fire Bayek. It is above 3% pick rate, so I do want to place it in. But it's kind of a wild card for me because I don't really know how good he does. I think that he's mainly like a last pick, so 75 kind of fits best vibes for me. But yeah, I'm not too sure where you see this thing too much or what it's supposedly countering. Let's actually click on this thing. I haven't really fought one, to be honest. And there's, yeah, these matches are all very few matches, so it doesn't really represent anything too well. It's actually hard countering a Chandra, which is very odd. Oh, no, wait, that's just a weakness. Advantage. Eh? I don't know, it's weak against Chandra. I was already like, no way it's countering a Chandra. But what is he countering then? Usa Cleaves. Oh, he's good into Maximilian. Nice, not a Maximilian counter, apparently. Okay. Yeah, I'm just gonna give it 75. Probably the moment that people figure out how to play against this thing, then it's probably going to drop in win rate anyway. So 75, but might be one of those slight sleeper units as well that you might pick up in your draft and might be pretty decent. I think none of these are used except the dark one. So let's go to that one. I still don't really know its name. Valkyrja or something like that. This thing, 46 on the win rate. And I think like most of the matches are from Hanslot, so Hanslot's probably inting with this unit. I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's really great. So I would give it a 60 for that. Moving on next, we are going into, I think none of these units are used. Pretty sure none of these units are used. Oh, I checked out, do you want to see the lowest win rate with some percentage of pick rate? Well, we can just select it on win rate. Absolute lowest win rate. Oh, wait, Monkey is actually losing that. But yeah, this thing is a 1.5 pick rate. So people are actually trying to put Irene to the test. And Irene is pretty much as good as nothing. So don't use that. Bludja is not used. Layla is used. But I think Layla win rate also started plummeting quite a bit. Whoa! Holy shit! Layla's garbage in G3. People definitely did figure out that draft. Holy shite, man. Never seen a thing so low in my life. 40% win rate. Well, Layla apparently. I think Layla can be nice if you have the right LDs. Like, Layla next to Eleanor is still pretty nice, but yeah, Layla's not really great. Jessica, however, are people still using that shite? Also not really a great unit in the first place, but has pretty decent win rate. Strip is so inconsistent, true. And she also has to land from wind to fire, which is also not optimal. Let's look at the Dokkaebi Lords, which were actually nerfed on the skill 1, slightly buffed on other skills. Jogun is 51.8 on the win rate. Pick rate is just a 1%. I would say Jogun is kind of a 70. If you build a whole draft around Jogun, he does okay-ish, but you really have to be prepared that if you don't land shit, you're going to be having a bad day. Byunchul, we see from time to time as a counter unit. 45 on the win rate. Yeah, that's not really doing it that great. I would say Byunchul is a 60. Could be a nice counter-ish unit, but it's not really that great. How about Gapso? Gapso was nerfed. Gapso is still the ragdoll Gapso king, of course. 48 on the win rate, and we got a 19.5 on the pick rate. It's definitely not bad. It's still usable. It's still decent. But it's nowhere near like super insane level anymore. But 85 is a fair number for him, I would say. I would still say if you have the ragdoll, he would climb up 1 or 2 ranks. Without it, it's just 85. But definitely still strong. I think it's less spammable right now. If people would play it more into like, okay, your enemy is healing a bit. Because I do think there's a lot of people that are not necessarily first picking him, but second picking him. If they would do that less and more pick him up when he fits, then it would definitely be pretty strong. Unless you have a ragdoll, then it's more spammable still. But I think it's more like when he fits, when the enemy has slight healers. Because if the enemy has 0 healers, the passive of Gapso is not picking up that much as well. Then we have the Water Twins, which are definitely very strong in single target damage meta. Because it's one of the greatest setups you have. And let's see where these units... I'm pretty sure I should be looking at these units already right now. There's no way they should be below that. They have way higher pick rate than that. Oh, they're over there. They do have way higher pick rate than that. Holy shit, their pick rate is actually insane. 21, and the win rate is insane as well. What the fuck? Let's see where they're at. Yeah, those are really good. So, wow. I would say they are really good because every Julian owner is using this together with the Julian because it's insanely strong with Julian, and Julian is one of the better ones out there. So I would say with a Julian, it's definitely here or there. Without the Julian, it's probably here. So I'm going to place the 90. I think I use it myself as well. I think it is very fair fitting with those units as well. Maybe not as much with the Chandra, it's too much of the same element. But it's definitely a very strong unit, but you have to pick it up into another damage dealer. Could be a Han, could be a lot of things. Could be a Yeon Hong even. There's a lot of options in there. But it's definitely something that is very well tuned with a Julian. Isn't first percent pick rate really high too? It's a decent amount of pick rate, but I would say the ones that are first picking this all have Julian. You pick this a little bit later. The main thing that makes this thing good is that you could say like, okay, I boost up my Cigar, I skill 3 on something else, and then I have 2 units that have no will runes. And therefore these 2 units already provide, if the enemy only has 2 will runes, for example, a full AoE. And that makes that thing very nice on a setup. Plus, most of these are built on Swift, so for that reason, there's quite some reasons to having this thing pretty strong. No, I'm actually going to one-up it for that. Because just the combination with Cigar already is very strong. Why is Kavachi so much higher than the Wind Cookie? It's just so much stronger of a pair with like all of the skills that he does. Because his skill 3 also has a boost in there. And the boost is just very strong. And then the boost, I mean attack bar boost. Plus the skill 2 with, I would say if you compare skill 2 to another skill 2, the skill 2 of Kavachi is a lot better. Do you consider combos? I do kind of consider them as average with and without the combo, but I do have the combos in mind. Like if you do have that unit, that's why I also would say like, if you have certain units and they combine, like let's say you have Julian and Kavachi, they will become one-up both of them. So yeah, there's... But on average, I would say here. So I slightly consider that for the possibilities of combos, but I don't say like, okay, Wusa is insanely good because you also have like XYZ. No. Let's say next. I think that these are... I think, yeah, I do consider the G3 people to have all of the normal elemental units. I do consider that. Or at least most of them. But for LDs, the combination of LDs, you can't consider that. That's too much. This thing, too low pick rate. The other thingy, also too low pick rate. Never used. That's too low pick rate. Let's look at the Geralds. I didn't place in any of the other Geralds, but I'm pretty sure that these are not going to be used that much. Nope. How about the light one? I don't think light one is used. It was buffed. Still not used. Then we have the fires. I think that water series probably used in lower ranks. Yeah, not surprised about that. Not much though, but not surprised about that. But she's in G3, definitely not worthy. Light Siri, I think she's an interesting unit. She just should stack faster. If she would stack faster, she would be insane. The matches she was in, she did have high win rates. So yeah, it is a pretty strong unit, but it's just hard to make her work. Yeah, Water Series really has the issue. She should have had the Speed Lead Awakening. Then she would be very good. This thing, not good enough as well. I think none of the Trisses, maybe a Fire Triss, but I would, yeah, highly doubt that any of those are used. Okay, hackers. The hackers are new. Let's see if any of the hackers are used. Some people were calling this hacker the new Veronica. I kind of doubted that. And I'm pretty sure that the win rate also does represent that. It's over there. This thing, pick rate, incredibly low. No one uses this, so no, it's not good enough. Fire one is used though. Let's see. I do know that some people, but I would say that people are, you can only use it if you spam Hey Gang. There are a decent amount, okay, 1%. 1%, it's not that bad. I would say that he gets a 75 from me. I don't think he's that great, but I think that he is okay-ish in his own right. This one for sure not used. Let's look at Silver and Nyx. I think they're not used much as well. Like, I don't think that these units are great. Dark one is near to no pick rate. I think it's a good last pick counter-ish. But I think it's only good if you play into Maximilian or Nefties. Like, if you play into Maximilian or Nefties, he might be okay. But without that, he's not really great. And the other thing is a 33 speed lead, which does have a lot of potential. But then again, we also do see... Yeah, if it's like 50 picks, it's super clouded. So that doesn't really... That win rate doesn't really represent anything. Or just too low sample size. But we have a 33 speed lead in this one. And it's 33 speed lead. Well, we do have the Trinity. And we don't even look at Trinity. So... Yeah, it's also a niche unit. Even less picked. It's too niche, too niche. Geldnir is also barely picked. So yeah, I think those are all of the units that I want to place in. I'm gonna place this thing in just for the sake of it. I think he's very niche, could be nice, but not great. So it's gonna put him 65 as well. So this is the tier list, and this is actually the most amount of non-LDs at the top we have ever seen. Because if you check the whole, let's say 90 plus, it is half of them are non-LDs, which is actually pretty interesting. Do I want to place anything anywhere else? Yeah, Zeratul is not used after buff, but there's a bunch of units. Ritz was just straight up trash as well. No, I think this tier list is pretty fine and pretty fair. I'm definitely going to get questions on the Maximilian, that's for sure. Yeah, I would say that it's pretty balanced. Like, I would definitely still say Laura's the best out of these. But I wouldn't say that something is super OP. Why Unicorn? It's a super strong late pick. And Unicorn is very good with these kind of units. Like, if you draft this plus a Unicorn into, let's say, an AoECC kind of comp, there's very good odds that the Unicorn will fuck it up for them. So I do have to give value to the Unicorn of that. Julian 1 up. No, I think Julian is kind of fair in his position right now. Oh wait, that's Conqueror. Julian, do we 1 up the Julian? No, I don't feel like... If you check these numbers straight up, I feel like that Julian has less success than Laura, just simply that. It does have a lot higher band value, though. Yeah, no, I think what Alucard says is true as well. Julian still needs a setup. Julian still needs, like, other units. Sure, you could pair it with just a Cigar, or just a Vanessa, or just a things. Compare the 4v4? Okay, fair. Let's compare the 4v4. Let's compare those. No, once again, win by Laura by a substantial amount. Actually, there's a few units like Ragdoll in the 4v4 is pretty strong. All of these do better, except Oliver does worse. Funny. But yeah, the Valajul, the Cigar, and the Chandra do better, which I'm not surprised about. Chandra is really nutty. Chandra is absolutely nutty. No, I think it's fair in their own rights. The Han has high win rate in the 4v4 though. Would I 1-up the Han? Yeah, I would say so. I think I 1-up the Han. Like, the Ragdoll has pretty nice win rate as well. But I think with the Bruiser meta that we have, I think I 1-up the Han. Like, that win rate of Han is pretty nasty. It is somewhat similar to the TL. Where did Layla ended up? Bottom tier. 60. That's like 40% win rate. Some low shit. So yeah, this is the tier list as is. Thanks for watching. If you would like to see more guides, join the Discord and check out the content tab, which has the Dungeon Guide Archive and the Video Guide Archive, which contains all of the guides that you need. Hope to see you there.